Session resumes. House rules reinstated. On the floor.
Calendar for business and finished business, agenda 14-242.
Excuse me, Mr. Presiding Chair. Point of order.
Yes.
I think we are not yet done with the questions that I have for the proponent with regard to the PNP.
Yeah, but no, we already invited Sir Macaoba to share with us on the peace and order situation and regarding the donation. Once we take up again the deed of donation, which was, I think, still pending. Pending ba ang deed of donation? Yeah, pending pa eh. Since it's still calendar and pending, then we will reiterate the query regarding the donation, why it's been since 2008 pa ngayon ito ng mga firearms.
But I thought the police, the guest answered why the donation is just being made now.
Mr. Presiding Chair, I have other queries other than the donations made.
Yeah. Once the deed of donation is taken up, so we will proceed with that. So, Justice Secretary.
Agenda 14-242 is the 2020 revised ordinance regulating the establishment, operation, and maintenance of internet cafes, computer rental shops, computer gaming shops, video game houses, centers within the city of Tacloban, and providing rules and penalties thereof. For second reading and third reading, sponsored by Honorable Brian C. Granados, co-sponsored by Honorable Dalisay Erpe, Honorable Evangeline Esperas, Honorable Leo Bahin, Honorable Aurora Amy Garfield, and Honorable Maria Elvira Casal.
Madam Clerk.
For this item, please recognize the principal sponsor of this proposed ordinance, the Honorable Brian C. Granados.
Honorable Granados is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer and Madam Floor Leader, and good afternoon to my colleagues. Agenda number 14-242 is the 2020 revised ordinance regulating the establishment, operation, and maintenance of internet cafes, computer rental shops, computer gaming shops, video games houses, centers within the city of Tacloban, and providing rules and penalties thereof. I have already incorporated some considerations and suggestions by my colleagues from the previous session, and considering that all members have been furnished a copy of the said proposed ordinance, I move to dispense with the reading of the full text of the proposed ordinance.
There is a motion to dispense with the reading of the full text of the proposed ordinance for second reading. The motion is seconded by Honorable Elfin. Any discussion? An objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
As a corollary motion, Mr. Presiding Officer, I move for the approval of the proposed ordinance known as the 2020 revised ordinance regulating the establishment, operation, and maintenance of internet cafes, computer rental shops, computer gaming shops, video games houses, centers within the city of Tacloban, and providing penalties thereof for second reading.
There's a motion to approve the 2020 revised ordinance regulating the establishment, operation, and maintenance of internet cafes and video game houses, centers within the city of Tacloban, providing rules and penalties thereof for second reading. The motion is seconded by Honorable Elfin. Any discussion from the floor? Members? Any discussions? Any objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Since there were no corrections, I move for the approval of the proposed ordinance known as the 2020 revised ordinance regulating the establishment, operation, maintenance of internet cafes, computer rental shops, computer gaming shops, video games houses, and centers within the city of Tacloban, and providing rules and penalties thereof for third and final reading.
There is a motion to approve the 2020 revised ordinance regulating the establishment, operation, and maintenance of internet cafes and video game houses centers within the city of Tacloban and providing rules and penalties thereof for third and final reading. The motion is seconded by all. Any objection? There being none, the motion is carried approved. Congratulations.
Business for the day. Agenda 14-266, a proposed ordinance prescribing abattoir, slaughterhouse management and operation, regulating the sale of food animals, its meat and meat products for public consumption, imposition of fees and charges, and providing penalties in violation thereof. For second and third reading, sponsored by Honorable Dalisay Erpe, Honorable Evangeline Speras, co-sponsored by Honorable Brian C. Granados, Honorable Leo Bahin, Honorable Aurora A. Grafil, Honorable Maria Elvira Casal, and Honorable Thomas John Diaz.
Madam Clerk.
For this item, please recognize the principal sponsor, the Honorable Dalisay Erpe.
Honorable Erpes recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. My colleagues, Mr. Presiding Officer, please allow me to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Alcantara, Eunice Alcantara, our city veterinarian. They're here to support the passage of this ordinance.
Good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon, Mr. Presiding Officer and my dear colleagues. Since everyone has been furnished with a copy of this 20-page proposed ordinance entitled An Ordinance Prescribing Abattoir, Slaughterhouse Management and Operation, Regulating the Sale of Food Animals, its meat and meat products for the public consumption, imposition of fees and charges, and providing penalties in violation thereof. I move to dispense with the reading of the full text of the proposed ordinance.
There is a motion to dispense with the reading of the full text of the proposed ordinance for second reading. The motion is seconded by? And by Honorable Granados, Honorable Grafil. Any discussion? An objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Presiding Officer, this 20-page proposed ordinance is regarding the management and operation of the slaughterhouse of the city of Tacloban. It is also known as the Meat for Public Consumption Regulatory Ordinance of the city of Tacloban. This ordinance has undergone a series of committee hearings with no less than our city veterinary officer and some members of the Legislative Committee on Markets, abattoir, slaughterhouse were present. The provision of this proposed ordinance is pursuant with the National Meat Inspection Service as well as existing laws and national policies under the Department of Agriculture. The changes from our previous ordinance and issuances are basically on the fees and charges, which is found on page 14 under Article 4, Article 9, Section 38. The penalties for violation of this ordinance ranges from 2,500 to 5,000, and confiscation of meat or meat products or cancellation of business permit or imprisonment under Article 14, Section 42. There being no corrections, I move to pass the said ordinance on third and final reading. I move to pass the ordinance, said ordinance for second reading.
Excited that kayo manadalisay. There's a motion to pass the proposed ordinance prescribing abattoir, slaughterhouse management, prescribing abattoir. An ordinance prescribing abattoir, slaughterhouse management and operation, regulating the sale of food animals, its meat and meat products for public consumption, imposition of fees and charges, and providing penalties in violation thereof for second reading. The motion is seconded by all. Any discussion? Honorable Pineda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to amend Section 5, Article 4 of the proposed ordinance by inserting the phrase "subject to existing ordinances" in between words "however" and "he." Hence, this section will be read as follows.
Section, can you, what page?
Article 4, Section 5.
Okay, right. Except,
By inserting the phrase "subject to existing ordinances" in between the words "however" and "he." Hence, this section will be read as follows. Section 5. The local chief executive, the city mayor, shall exercise general control and supervision over the city slaughterhouse established by the city government. However, subject to existing ordinances, he may enter a joint venture agreement with a private entity or public-private partnership or any other scheme allowed under Philippine laws for the efficient and effective management and operation of the city slaughterhouse or abattoir. The reason for the amendment. The rationale for this amendment is that we have existing ordinances on joint venture agreement and on public-private partnership. Hence, should the city government enter into such agreement, it is required by law that such agreement must conform to the said ordinances. Otherwise, any agreement entered into by the city government not consistent with the provisions on our ordinances on joint venture agreements and PPP will be questionable.
the proponent.
It's noted, Mr. Presiding Officer, because I have a copy of this joint ordinance, of this city ordinance 2017-13-23, and I have read the provisions in this ordinance.
So when you say, when the Honorable Alper says it's noted, so you're amenable? Amenable, okay. Now, if the city mayor enters into a joint venture agreement, will it be subject to the ratification of the Sangguniang?
Yes, my coach, co-sponsor.
Honorable Esperas.
Always, any agreement, any transaction, any joint venture agreement or whatever is always subject. In fact, it would even require prior authority. Then afterwards, after the completion of the agreement, the ratification. Every transaction, every agreement is always subject to prior authorization of this august body.
Yeah, supposedly.
Yes.
Even with the other agreement. Sige. The proponent, was this ordinance gone through not just committee hearing but public hearing as well?
Yes.
So there was public hearing conducted, especially with the
vendors.
affected sectors.
Yes, Mr.
Example, ang
Presiding
Paratihaw,
Yes.
ang parang nagbibili ng karne.
Yes, we had a public hearing with the vendors, an owner, and even together with the city veterinary personnel.
In that regard, Mr. Presiding Officer, may we really request the Honorable Chair to have a certificate of public hearing issued by the Secretariat during the public hearing, just for the record.
Yes,
We
because
will attach it.
a public hearing is required for this one. Kasi since Dr. Alcantara is with us in the gallery, can we suspend the house first? Can we ask her? So House rules.
At this juncture, I move to suspend the House rules.
Okay. House rules suspended. Can we invite Dr. Alcantara, the city rep?
Honorable Chair, Honorable Vice Mayor Sabriel Casim, the honorable members of this august body, good afternoon everyone. So regarding with the conduct of public hearings and consultations, we have conducted series of meetings with them, the sectors affected. In fact, if I remember it right, we had 3 together with Honorable Bahin and Honorable Banchis Perez.
And Brian.
And also Honorable Brian Granados. And all members of the committee.
Yeah, considering that we also had the opportunity to visit the new slaughterhouse, can you tell us since these regulations now will apply now to the operations of the new slaughterhouse? Ready na ba itong bagong slaughterhouse? Then, is it on what level? No? Is it AAA, AA? Kasi na aton envision was AAA. Then, what are still the challenges there? Kasi ano pa pwede na ma-improve natin aton slaughterhouse operations. But having been to D8 and having been to Salvation, dako na gud man diferensya. But in the operations of the Salvation slaughterhouse, I noticed na wala good tubig. That regular supply of water would be very vital in the operations of a slaughterhouse. Kasi ang una, ang problema D8 really was tubig. Nakita ko na ito ng salog. Ito ang salog na kahuhugaw, no? Nga ada pa ka ng dugo pa ito ng mga animals na natin slaughter. But now, having been to the facility, the new one, hirayo na gud Manindoro. So we hope that our vision is that Tacloban City, the slaughterhouse that we operate would be AAA.
Yes,
So I do not know at this time what is the status. Then it has been ongoing with atong operations there. And ano pa pwede natin buhatan?
Yes, that is the very reason why we are really very eager that we operate the Tacloban New Slaughterhouse. Although there is now a partial operation on the hog lines, we have about 20 vendors who are patronizing the facility. We are using it now. We have an operation Monday to Sunday actually. The present status, if you will ask me about the accreditation, I think it was already presented previously that the present accreditation right now is only AA.
AA. So kung mag-AA ka, Doc, what does it mean? What's the difference between AA and AAA?
The AAA being, it would be international. The product will go as far as Singapore, but AA accreditation will reach the whole country.
So pwede natin maano na pa.
Pwede siya, and right now we are, being the water is of primary importance, there is one private entity who is delivering water to the slaughterhouse, but we have now in the pipeline the construction of a deep well. In fact, just last week I had a meeting with the city administrator. We're trying to find some funds for the drilling of a deep well, and then we also have the repairs, minor repairs now kay ang plumbing talaga dito medyo naapektuhan right after the typhoon, and may ada pa dito mga screen that we have observed that birds are getting inside the facility, and that is one of the no accreditation board. So we have already addressed it, and now we are just awaiting for this ordinance so that we can already implement it.
Yes. And also the wastewater treatment na lang.
The wastewater
Doc.
treatment will be addressed by next year, being the upgrade man good hereby.
Yes.
hapon, we are anticipating for the full operation ng ANIT, medyo makukuring ANIT akong facility. But the city administrator has already discussed this with the city mayor, and he said, parang go naman siya, and he promised that he will reserve funds for this.
Yeah. So we hope, Doc, with the operations, especially we go full blast with the passage of this ordinance, that the water supply will be addressed and the wastewater treatment will also be addressed para diri kita magsangkol ang mga national government agencies.
Yes, that's correct, Vice. As well as the collection of the garbage. That's one of the challenges that we are anticipating.
Yes. So hopefully that we still have enough funds kasi I think the finance that we used was through a loan, bank loan. And we hope that di rin masayang I think it's 100+ million project. So
We really wanted to operate it now on full operation because there are some private entities like the family who have discussions already manifesting interest to use the facility.
yeah. So thank you, Doc, for
Thank you very much.
sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Also, reinstated. Any further discussions? Honorable Muncho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a question regarding in the definition of terms, number 4C. Is it postmodern or postmortem? Postmortem. Okay.
Where is it?
Number 40, page 7. And another question regarding section 37, number 3, page 14. Yes, page 14, section 37, number 4. So, who is the Bantay Carne Task Force?
The proponent.
Request suspended of just for the Bantay Carne.
Honorable Muncho.
Yes, the Bantay Carne Task Force is primarily composed of the meat inspectors, being under the City Meat Inspection Service. They are considered by virtue of an office order, they are formed as the so-called Bantay Carne Task Force. They are authorized to do meat inspection services or even confiscation of hot meats and all.
Are they the same as the meat inspection team? Is that the other name?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Doc, at Paraglitson, what will happen at Paraglitson? Ang mga Paraglitson ba?
Actually, the Paraglitson is also included in the ordinance. They will be compelled to use the facility, being the slaughterhouse is the only facility wherein we can butcher meat and meat products or live animals intended for sale.
Okay. Sige, Doc, thank you.
One more.
Okay.
One more question.
Yes, Honorable Chua.
What are considered humane acts under this ordinance when slaughtering?
We have the so-called RA 8485. Under that, it's called the Animal Welfare Act. When we butcher animals, it should be as humanely as possible. Kasi now, an upon existing slaughterhouse is floor dressing, and then they really are undergoing, shall I say, violating the Animal Welfare Act. So when we will be using the present or the facility now, it will be humane because of the electric stunning that we use. My hope is that the animals will bleed unconsciously, so they will not feel anything. Yes, we have stud bulk for the large animals, the Catholic carnival, the Chincopo Sylvia. Not like now we bleed to death talaga hero. So that's the difference. Thank you.
So what will happen now to the old slaughterhouse?
The old slaughterhouse will be closed. I have discussed this with the Director of National Meat Inspection Service that medyo nahulat na yara hapon yung atong go signal. Pagka medyo may ordinance na kita that we can use or implement or impose, he will close the slaughterhouse. He will issue an order for closure.
But it's still being used by the city pa, itong ADDIIT.
Yes, right now it's being used.
Okay. But the property is owned by the city.
The city.
Okay. Sige, Doc. Thank you so much. How, Honorable Pineda? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to ask the proponent, when was the committee hearing?
Is it the proponent or to Dr. Alcantara?
Both of them, because I know that Dr. Alcantara should always be present during especially not the committee hearing, the public hearing. When was it done? And where?
Sometime in November, October, and parang 3 months after the public hearing and here in the Sangguniang.
Was it a committee hearing or public hearing?
Mr. Presiding Officer, can I address the query of Honorable Pineda? Actually, that first meeting, we invited only some of a limited number of meat vendors, meat owner, and meat shops. Gutela, we have a limited number, but nga tanang nanupod nga ni. In fact, wala ko kadarangan yan attendance sheet, I failed to attach it in the ordinance. Nag-abot kami din mga 80 ada. So we consider it now but we item by item discuss the ordinance with them. Especially the fees, kaya amon gin-elaborate, pero waray ito reklamo ito nga mga fees. So waray kami masyado nga gin-adjust hat to during, and we consider it now that gathering as a public gathering. And ito nga kay nagtanan na haros nag-abot na nga tanan hasta may nakadtunga Santa Rita nga may dahya stockyard dito remember that pagka nag-public hearing na everybody concerned were around, and then ito namon gini-refer nga public hearing kay makuri na liwat mag-call in another public hearing, and after that all our notes, and we improved the ordinance through an ilang mga suggestions, and we conducted 3 more committee hearings, which is we were attended by the members of the committee, Honorable Esperas, and the team of Dr. Alcantara.
Yes, Dr. Pineda.
Am I correct when Honorable Erpi told us that the first time she called was a committee hearing, but there were many who attended and it was converted into a public hearing the second time? What really is the situation?
An 18 attendance. Actually, I have an attendance sheet. I just forgot to bring and put it in my report.
The 80, Honorable Erpe, the 80 was a public hearing or committee hearing?
Public hearing. That was a public hearing because the invitation exceeds may dagamon gin-invite nga mga mga principal, pero nangabot nga tanan. Damo hira nangabot ng nagpapaihaw ngayon dito sa slaughterhouse sa Diit. So that was the second. We consider it as a public hearing. Kay damo naman hira. The first was a committee hearing ang pag-discuss lahan ro draft ng amon ordinance, and then pagpatawag na namon amon na ito nga nag-abot na hira na ang sugad dito kadamo, and we consider it is the public hearing.
Mr. Presiding Chair,
Yes, yes.
if we talk about a public hearing, it is different from a committee hearing. A committee hearing may the people concerned may attend for a committee hearing but not a public hearing. Public hearing is different.
We have to make sure that what you called is a public hearing. Kasi magkakaproblema kita in our ordinance if what you called was not actually a public hearing. You cannot consider it a public hearing when you called for a committee hearing. And a committee hearing is not based on the number of attendees. We cannot say that kay nagdamo hera, so king convert natin into a public hearing kasi may penalty provisions. Then there are rates na nag-change kita and penalty provisions. So under the local government code, public hearing is required for it. So we have to make sure before we pass this that a public hearing was called, not just a committee hearing. Then because of the sheer number of attendees, we converted it into a public hearing. Ma-violate kita it ato local government code. So 1 minute recess, please. Session resumes. Based on the committee report, resolution number 2020-14-144, a resolution adopting and approving the committee report of the committee hearing conducted by the Committee on Market, Abattoir, Slaughterhouse and Livestock on the proposed ordinance prescribing abattoirs, slaughterhouse management and operation regulating the sale of food animals, its meat and meat products for public consumption, imposition of fees and charges, and imposing penalties in violation thereof. So the committee report on the committee hearing conducted by the Committee on Markets, Abattoirs, Slaughterhouse and Livestock on the proposed ordinance prescribing abattoir, slaughterhouse management and operation regulating the sale of food animals, its meat and meat products for public consumption, imposition of fees and charges, and imposing penalties in violation thereof. The Committee on Market, Slaughterhouse and Livestock conducted committee hearings last 26 October 2019 at 9 o'clock in the morning and 30 November 2019 at 1:30 in the afternoon, both held at the Legislative Building, Magsaysay Boulevard, Tacloban City. Then, in addition, the committee conducted 2 more sessions with Honorable Evangeline Speras, Dr. Eunice Alcantara and her staff to thoroughly clarify and finalize the draft ordinance. So this is the content of the committee report. The proponent.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I'd like to defer the passage of ordinance for second reading. I'd like to defer it to comply with the public requirement for a public hearing.
Okay. So there's a motion to defer consideration of the proposed ordinance for second reading until the next session. The motion is seconded by all. Any discussion? Objection? There being none, motion is approved. Next, please. 1 minute recess, please. Session resumes. The floor now.
The next 2 items are principally sponsored by the Committee on Laws. Agenda 14-267, request to pass a resolution for authority to enter into a memorandum of agreement by and between the City Government of Tacloban with the Coalition of Service of the Elderly Incorporated, represented by Executive Director Ms. Emily Redico, relative to the enhancement of social accountability towards responsive and age-friendly local government unit. And Agenda 14-268, Comprehensive Tax Ordinance Number 2, Series of 2019, of Barangay 45, an ordinance imposing the collection of fees for barangay clearances and certification for a specific purpose.
Madam Floor.
For item number 14-267, please recognize the Honorable Rachel Pineda being the Chair of the Committee on Senior Citizens. And for the other one, item 268, please recognize the Honorable Evangeline Perez.
Honorable Pineda is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a request to pass a resolution granting authority to Honorable City Mayor Alfred S. Romualdez to enter into a memorandum of agreement on behalf of the City Government of Tacloban with the Coalition of Service of the Elderly Incorporated, or the COSI, represented by its Executive Director, Ms. Emily N. Beredico, relative to the enhancement of the social accountability towards the responsive and age-friendly local government unit. So, the Coalition of the Service of the Elderly, Inc., or the COSI, is a non-profit humanitarian and development organization duly registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, and the DSWD, existing under Philippine laws, with office address at 1407 Quezon Avenue, West Triangle, QC, represented by its Executive Director, Emily N. Beredico. It wants to help the city government of Tacloban in strengthening the capacity of the Senior Citizen Federation through forming the Older Citizens Monitoring Committee and establishing Senior Citizens Registration and Information System. Under the MOA, the COSI shall be responsible to name a few, is to conduct assessment of older persons organization needs and facilitate capacity building activities on prioritized issues and topics, facilitate annual assessment and planning of older person federation and exchange experiences between the OPOs and the LGUs through the OSCA and the MSWDO. Conduct age and disability sensitization with LGU partners and support groups, and conduct capacity building activities on social accountability with the LGU partners and support groups, and assist OPO's federation in designing campaign activities for the Elderly Filipino Week and other local and international observances for older persons. On the other hand, the LGU of Tacloban City shall endorse the project to the City or Municipal Social Welfare Office of the Senior Citizen Affairs and other related officers, assist in inviting older persons organization leaders and members to municipal activities, provide technical support in facilitating the SCRIS survey, provide existing data on senior citizens and community profile, provide venue for regular meetings of older persons organizations. So, this organization, COSI, shall be a big help to the CSWD in its program for the senior citizens of Tacloban City. However, in the MOA, the commencement date should be changed to August 2020 and will end on March 31, 2023 instead of June 1, 2019 and will end on March 31, 2023. Therefore, the committee moves to pass and adopt a resolution granting authority to the Honorable City Mayor Alfred S. Romualdez to enter into a memorandum of agreement on behalf of the City Government of Tacloban with the Coalition of Service of the Elderly Incorporated, represented by its Executive Director, Ms. Emily N. Beredico, relative 2. The enhancement of social accountability towards responsive and age-friendly local government units.
There's a motion to pass a resolution granting authority to the city mayor, Mayor Alfred Esmoldes, to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Coalition of Service of the Elderly Incorporated, represented by its Executive Director, Ms. Emily N. Veridico, relative to the enhancement of social accountability towards responsive and age-friendly local government unit. The motion is seconded by all. Any discussion? Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Next item, Honorable Esperanza Gomez.
Agenda number 14-268 is ordinance number 2 series of 2019 entitled An Ordinance Imposing the Collection of Fees for Barangay Clearance and Certifications for Specific Purpose. Actually, before us is already the corrected copy of ordinance number 2 series of 2019 enacted by Sangguniang Barangay 45 entitled An Ordinance Imposing the Collection of Fees for Barangay Clearances and Certifications and such other fees for Barangay 45 Tacloban City. Having made the necessary corrections in their ordinance, the committee hence moves to pass and adopt a resolution approving ordinance number 2 series of 2019 entitled An Ordinance Imposing the Collection of Fees for Barangay Clearance and Certifications and such other fees for Barangay 45 Tacloban City.
There is a motion to pass a resolution approving the comprehensive tax ordinance number 2 series of 2019 of Barangay 45 entitled An Ordinance Imposing the Collection of Fees for Barangay Clearances and Certification for Specific Purpose. The motion is seconded by all. Any discussion? An objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Unassigned business. Number 1, a proposed ordinance granting franchise to Rogelio Lazaro and Rowena Besa to operate one unit number 818 of electric truck cab for hire within the city of Tacloban. For first reading, sponsored by Honorable Leo Bahin.
We will officially refer the proposed ordinance to the Committee on Transportation as chaired by Honorable Leo Bahin.
Unassigned business number 2, a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 8 of Tacloban City Ordinance number 2000-01. For first reading, sponsored by Honorable Leo Bahin.
We will officially refer the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 8 of Tacloban City Ordinance number 2000-01 to the Committee on Transportation as chaired by Honorable Leo Bahin.
No other matter on my table, Mr. President.
Madam Clerk.
There is no other matter on my table, and before we adjourn, please rise up for the closing prayer. Let's put ourselves in the presence of our Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you as we always do for giving us the diligence, the patience, and the kindness with which we exercise our duties and responsibilities as leaders of our communities. Allow us to serve your people with honor and humility, with more commitment and care. Lord, as the DOH has announced, DOH Region 8 has announced, local transmission already in our city, and other towns. We pray that you grant us continued protection and safety against COVID-19. All these we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
The 39th regular session of 14th Sangguniang Panglunsod is now officially adjourned.